In the days before Selection Sunday in the 2021 college basketball season, Pac-12 only had two AP Top 25 teams, both barely hanging on to their spots on the poll. Both teams, Colorado and USC, lost in their conference tournament, so for my narrative, I will state that the conference only had one AP Top 25 team. After Selection Sunday, the Pac-12 did not have an easy road, with no 1, 2, 3, or 4 seeds to get even one team to the Sweet 16, and the prospect of multiple Sweet 16 teams was an afterthought after the conference's best were lined up on the 5, 6, and 7 lines. On one miraculous upset-filled 10-1 stretch later, and the Pac-12 sits with the most Sweet 16 teams of any conference. To get a better look at how the conference put itself in such a poor position come Selection Sunday, we must go back to the conference's non-conference slate. The out-of-conference slate is a time for the strength of conferences across the nation to be compared, with the effects of marquee matchups having their bearing on seed selection come March. To start out, the preseason AP poll did the Pac-12 no favors when only Oregon, ASU, and UCLA were ranked, with none lower than 18 in the country. The Pac-12 got off to a bad start with UCLA and ASU losing to SDSU and Oregon losing to a then unranked Missouri squad. Due to the pandemic-shortened slate, opportunities to face Eastern teams during non-conference were few and far between, so these early Pac-12 losses were not good. Stanford, a preseason NCAA Tournament contender, picked up a win over Alabama in the Maui Gym, but proceeded to lose 2 straight to Indiana and UNC. Colorado lost to Tennessee in their sole non-conference opportunity, while USC beat BYU but lost to UConn by 1. And Utah returned the favor with a loss to BYU. By the 4th AP poll, the Pac-12 looked like a mid-major without a single ranked team. Washington continued with a loss to Baylor, while UCLA and ASU put a bow on the non-conference with losses to Ohio State and Villanova respectively. Cal, Arizona, Oregon State, and Washington State did not play any notable out-of-conference games due to pandemic travel restrictions, so there the Pac-12 sat, entering the conference season with one ranked team, Oregon at number 25, after everyone realized that the Missouri team they lost to was good, and an abysmal 2-10 record against March Madness at-large teams. It is noteworthy that almost every Pac-12 team faced a COVID pause during the early part of this season, and the resulting discontinuity and player loss may have led the Pac-12 to lose more of these crucial games than they should have, which, as we've seen, would come back to bite the rest of the nation come March. In the conference slate, UCLA started off with 8 straight wins to have the conference lead until this last-second inbounds play against Stanford. The Bruins went on to lose 2 out of their next 3 to cede the conference lead to USC for the time being, who held the lead for a couple of weeks until they too dropped 3 of 4, including both in a disastrous trip up to the Rockies. Oregon, who dealt with multiple COVID outbreaks during the first 2 months of conference play and was the only team not to finish their conference slate, went on to win the Pac-12 regular season title. Entering the Pac-12 tournament, the conference had 4 teams in position for a March Madness bid: USC, Oregon, Colorado, and UCLA, as other contender Stanford played their way out of the tournament with 5 straight L's to end the season. Also note that Arizona would have made the NCAA tournament, but they were ineligible due to self-imposed sanctions. However, it was Oregon State that shocked the world, ripping off 3 straight wins over NCAA tournament at-large teams to win the tournament. While Oregon State did have wins over USC and Oregon consecutively at one point in the season, poor losses to teams like Portland, Wyoming, and Washington State kept a gap between the Beavers and the other 4 teams until they became a bid bandit and secured their spot to give the Pac-12 5 teams in the NCAA tournament. As you can see, the Pac-12 was always below the other Power 6 conferences in the AP poll, with there only being a couple of weeks where they were even tied with the lowest other conference. On Selection Sunday, it was revealed that UCLA would be the first Pac-12 team to play in the first 4 against Michigan State. UCLA entered the game as a 3-point underdog, and down by 3 with 38 seconds left, an insane sequence led to UCLA tying the game and forcing overtime, where they would win by 6. The upsets continued as UCLA handed BYU a first-round L, and the Beavers continued the Pac-12 run, blowing out the Volunteers. VCU forfeited a game against Oregon, but I'll count it as a win for the conference because A, Oregon went on to beat 2-seed Iowa in the next round, and B, VCU was clearly the less disciplined team. USC took care of Drake while Colorado outshot Georgetown, and just like that, the Pac-12 was 6-0 on the tournament with 5 teams in the second round. The momentum continued in the second round as Oregon State upset Oklahoma State handily, while USC and Oregon blew the doors off the number 2 and 3 seeds in the West region. UCLA was fortunate to play and beat 14-seed Abilene Christian, while Colorado recorded the first L for the conference against favored number 4 seed FSU. This moved the Pac-12 to 10-1 on the tournament with a guaranteed Elite 8 spot as USC and Oregon face off in the West region semifinal. Furthering the improbable nature of the feat is the fact that all but one of the wins came over at-large, Abilene being the exception, with the Pac-12 being underdogs in 6 of the games. While the Big 12 and Big 10, the 2 best conferences in the nation before the tournament, struggled to get teams to the Sweet 16 despite having significantly easier paths with 1, 2, and 3 seeds, the Pac-12 thrived, taking their underdog status as a character trait. The 2021 Pac-12 is the first conference all time to have 4 teams seeded 4th or worse reach the Sweet 16. The impressive turnaround from 2-10 to 9-1 against NCAA at-large teams in the beginning versus end of the season exemplifies how the Pac-12 may have been an underrated league by the AP poll, selections committee, and fans in general all along, as COVID-19 restrictions disproportionately reduced practice time, available players, and number of marquee out-of-conference games for Western teams. Thank you for watching.